There's a craving inside you that you never chose. It was set in place 10 million years before you were born. And the thing that makes you reach for can kill you. So let us go back and find where it started. You are a hunter 13,000 years ago. No fridge, no shops. You live in a cave with people you actually like. You have walked all day, your feet ache. And someone finds grain that has been sitting in a wet stone bowl too long. It smells strange, it looks bubbly. Something has clearly happened to it. And against every survival instinct a sensible animal should have, someone decides to drink it anyway. That person may be one of the most important humans who ever lived. Because that one reckless sip may have changed everything that came after. Not just parties, farming, cities, religion, writing, all of it. So when did you first drink, and why did you ever start? The answer does not start with humans at all. It starts with monkeys. Here is a question that sounds silly but is not. Were you ever built to handle alcohol in the first place? Most animals that swallow real amounts of it fall over or die. Their bodies cannot break it down. Their livers revolt. But you are different. You carry a special tool for this. An enzyme that lets you break ethanol down with surprising ease. And here is the part that should stop you cold. That tool did not appear when humans made wine. It did not appear when farming began. It appeared roughly 10 million years ago. Before modern humans, before any creature you would call a person. The change emerged deep in the primate family, high in the trees. Right as your ancestors began climbing down to the ground. So for 10 million years, your body was preparing for a relationship. One scientist spent 25 years asking why, and gave his answer the best name in all of science, the drunken monkey idea. It is simple. Your ancient ancestors ate fruit, mountains of it. And fruit, when it gets perfectly ripe, begins to ferment. Wild yeast lands on it, eats the sugar, and leaves ethanol behind. So every perfectly ripe fruit came with a whisper of alcohol. And that faint smell was not a warning, it was a signal. It meant peak sweetness, peak calories, eat it now. The ancestors who ignored that smell went hungry and left fewer children. The ones who chased it ate more, lived longer, and passed the craving on. Over millions of years, the love of that smell was carved into you. You were selected by nature to enjoy the scent of alcohol. This is not weakness. It is 10 million years working exactly as designed. And it is not just a theory. They went and tested it. In Panama, they studied the fruit wild spider monkeys chose to eat. That fruit held real alcohol, made by nature alone. And in their bodies, they found the leftovers of ethanol being processed. Chimps eating their normal fruit, taken a drink or two worth every day. Your distant ancestor had a gentle daily buzz in the forest and never knew. The pull was set long before any human ever fermented a thing on purpose. But at some point the story turns. A thinking human decides not to stumble on fermented food, but to make it on purpose, again and again. That takes memory, observation, the seed of something like science. The oldest proof of that leap sits inside a cave in Israel. It was a burial place used by people 13,000 years ago. They were not primitive, they buried their dead with flowers. They kept the first dogs, they were clever and deeply social. And among the bones, researchers found carved stone bowls, still holding residue after 13,000 years. When they tested it, the answer was clear. They had been making beer. Real beer from wheat and barley, brewed in careful stages. Soak the grain, heat the mash, let the wild air ferment it. A patient multi-step craft, 13,000 years ago. Now here is what should quietly short-circuit your brain. This came before farming. These people did not grow crops. They gathered wild grain and chose to turn some of it into beer for the dead. Which fuels one of the great arguments in all of archaeology. Did we settle down and farm for bread or for beer? Think about it. Why would a healthy wanderer suddenly stop and dig the earth? Break the ground, plant seeds, and wait months tied to one spot? What could make that trade worth it? A reliable supply of beer. A drink that was rich in calories, could be shared and honored the dead. That was often even safer than the murky local water. Many still argue bread came first. The debate is alive. But the timeline is settled. The urge to brew is older than the plow. And from the very start, alcohol was never only about a good time. It was sacred. Move forward and the discovery erupts all over the world at once. In China, jars 9,000 years old held an ancient cocktail. Rice, honey, and hawthorn fruit fermented together. In the country of Georgia, the oldest wine on earth, 8,000 years old. They still bury clay jars in the ground to make it exactly that way. These cultures never met, they never traded a single recipe. Each one discovered fermentation entirely on its own, which means this was never one lucky accident that spread. Give humans grain, fruit, and time, and they find it every single time. We are, as a species, incurably curious about what ferments. Then one civilization turned drinking into a whole system. In the land between two rivers, writing was invented. And some of the very first things ever written down were about beer. Workers that were paid in beer every single day. A common laborer might get 2 full liters a day as wages. Beer was money, beer was medicine, beer was the social fabric itself. They loved it so deeply, they built a goddess to embody it. The lady who fills the mouth, they wrote a hymn in her honor. And hidden inside that hymn was something close to a brewing recipe, so detailed that a modern brewer rebuilt the beer from it. Nearly 4,000 years later, the ancient recipe still worked. Their heirs cataloged 70 kinds of beer, and one of humanity's first great law codes ruled on beer. On its fair price, on its quality, on cheating your customers. Water down your beer in that city, and you could be thrown in the river. Our first written laws included protection for the quality of a drink. In Egypt, beer was survival, and wine was power. The people who built the pyramids were paid in bread and beer. In a land of dangerous river water, that beer kept people alive. Beer was, in a real way, ancient public health. And wine went into the sealed tombs of kings, labeled with the year, the vineyard, even the winemaker's name. The oldest wine labels on earth, waiting 3,000 years in the dark. And here is the thread that runs through every single one of these. From the cave to the river cities to Egypt to China. Wherever we find the first alcohol, it is tied to the sacred and to death. The cave people brewed for their dead. The river cities gave beer a goddess. The Egyptians offered wine at the edge between this world and the next. This is not a coincidence. There is something about a loosened mind that we have always called meaningful. A doorway, a moment of stepping outside your small, single self. We did not invent it to forget a hard day. We grew toward it to mark the moments that matter most. Birth, death, harvest, the turning of the seasons, each other. If that quiet thread from the cave to your own table moved you, sit with it a moment. Subscribe, and the next quiet question will find you when it is ready. And send this to the person you would most want to raise a glass with. So when did you first drink? The honest answer stretches across an almost unimaginable amount of time. 10 million years ago, your body was quietly built to want it. 13,000 years ago, a grieving people first made it for the dead. And ever since, an unbroken chain has carried it to the cup in your hand. So the next time someone passes you a drink, feel the real weight of it. That glass reaches all the way back to a nervous human in a cave, tasting something strange and finding it against all odds good. And behind that, 10 million years of following a sweet, slightly wrong smell, and choosing every time to move toward it. You did not stumble into this by accident. You grew toward it the way a plant grows toward the light.